According to Joe Rogan, the famous Oak Island legend of Nova Scotia, Canada, might contain a terrifying truth that many people are not aware of. What side of the real versus myth conversation is Joe Rogan on? If Oak Island is indeed real, what should be the next step? Join us as we look into how Joe Rogan reveals the terrifying truth about Oak Island. Although he began his career in the late 1980s as a stand-up comedian, Joe Rogan only rose to national fame in 2009 when he launched his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. The podcast quickly became one of the most popular and influential shows in the world. It features Rogan engaging in lengthy conversations with a wide variety of guests, including comedians, actors, scientists, authors, politicians, and athletes. These conversations range from topics like comedy and entertainment to politics, philosophy, and the mysteries of the universe. Rogan has also cultivated a reputation as a controversial and polarizing figure, often sparking debates with his strong opinions on various subjects. When he decided to discuss the legend of Oak Island and its mysterious treasures, it was destined to be explosive. Located in Nova Scotia, Canada, Oak Island and its mythical riches are among history's most sought-after secrets. Since the 19th century, explorers from all over the world have made numerous attempts to locate its artifacts and treasures. However, despite the number of lives lost on the island while attempting to discover its riches, stories persist of many competent and talented explorers who remain inspired to take the risk. One of these stories involves the Lagina brothers. 11-year-old Rick Lagina could never have predicted that glancing through a copy of Reader's Digest in 1965 would affect his life forever. The story that caught his attention was about a legendary treasure hidden on an island in the wilds of Canada. He and his brother, Marty, became even more captivated when their father showed them an article about Oak Island in the Wall Street Journal. Rick, especially, was intrigued by the buried treasure, especially after learning that many others had attempted and failed to uncover it. Though young at the time, Rick realized he had a tremendous assignment ahead of him, and he wasn't about to back down or give up. Rick Lagina's curiosity about the Oak Island treasure was unsurprising given that he was already a natural adventurer. In 1964, he had participated in a treasure hunt in his hometown of Kingsford. During his exploration, he came across a massive granite rock, and his curiosity compelled him to investigate what lay beneath it. He enlisted the help of his brother Marty and a group of neighborhood kids to lift the boulder. To Rick and his friends' dismay, they did not find any expensive or valuable objects behind the large rock. Instead, they uncovered a pile of soil, but that was to be anticipated. Nonetheless, curious souls never give up, and this slight setback did not deter Rick. He knew there was more out there in the world waiting for him to explore. Before we explore Oak Island with the Lagina brothers, let's discuss how a similar curiosity over 150 years ago led to the legend of the treasures on this island. In 1796, a small boy spotted a weird dip on Oak Island, an unusual sight that led many people to check out what he had found. 8 years later, the Onslow Company organized a team to search the area. While we'll never know why it took them so long to start the exploration, it's better late than never. After identifying the strange dip and some odd markings in the area, the explorers began drilling. They drilled down until they touched something solid and discovered a buried stone tablet with an unusual inscription. After finding the stone, there was only one thing left to do: try to figure out what was written on it. Experts got to work seeking to interpret the transcription, but despite their best efforts, they couldn't interpret it. Their failure was likely due to the lack of necessary instruments and knowledge. The transcription would not be translated until nearly 100 years later. In 1886, a professor from Halifax decoded a startling phrase: 40 feet below, 2 million pounds lie buried. No one knew what the pounds referred to, although the phrase seemed menacing. One interesting theory is that the phrase suggests a significant amount of treasure was buried beneath the surface, ready to be discovered. Many theories have surfaced about the origin of the treasure. Some people even attributed the treasure to William Shakespeare. Many who question Shakespeare's existence claim his literary works were created by Francis Bacon. Some treasure hunters speculated that Bacon might have dug a trench on Oak Island to bury his manuscripts and riches. While this hypothesis is appealing, it is now universally accepted that Shakespeare was himself, rather than Francis Bacon or anyone else. Another theory posits that Oak Island's hidden riches belonged to the famed French royal, Marie Antoinette. Marie allegedly dispatched her maid to Nova Scotia to conceal her wealth and jewelry on the island. Rumors circulated that the French Navy was also involved in the cover-up, though this was never proven. One element that supports the theory is that Marie was captured without any jewelry or gold. The list of theories goes on, with some involving pirates and sailors. Captain Kidd is thought to have buried part of his loot on Oak Island. Others speculate that when Captain Blackbeard said he buried something where none but Satan and myself can find it, he was referring to stashing something on the island. However, one of the most intriguing theories involves the marks found around the island, which appear to match Masonic rituals. Could the Freemasons have hidden treasures on Oak Island? No one knows for sure. Let's go back to the little boy, Daniel McInnes, who discovered the weird circular depression in 1796. When he spoke up about his discovery, he didn't know he would start an exploration movement. He just saw something odd that piqued his curiosity. As he got closer, he noticed a tree with its branches cut off. Seeing the tree reminded him of the pirate and treasure chest stories he had heard over the years. He suspected that the branches had been removed on purpose so that the tree could function as a pulley. Daniel was determined to learn more about the tree's purpose, so he enlisted the help of his pals, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan, to find out what might be buried beneath the tree. With all their might and excitement, the young lads began digging. After 2 feet, they hit a flagstone. The youngsters removed the flagstone and continued digging until they reached 30 feet down, where they discovered layers of oak logs. Realizing they couldn't dig any deeper on their own, they assumed they would have to wait years to continue their quest. Almost a decade later, the Onslow Company arrived and dug in the same spot where the 3 boys had previously dug. With better equipment, they were able to go deeper, and at 60 feet, they discovered more oak logs, this time with coconut fiber and charcoal in thick layers. They continued digging until they discovered the stone tablet with the strange inscription. Thrilled with their finding, they removed another layer of oak wood, but that led to disaster as water began to flood the pit. The Onslow Company couldn't figure out where the water was coming from, but it made their job impossible. Despite their best efforts to drain the pit, nothing worked. The Onslow Company eventually quit, unable to go any further. However, a fresh party of explorers named the Truro Company arrived on Oak Island in 1849. They discovered a way to drill samples from the pit without dealing with the water. After several days of drilling, they hit a jackpot, 2 chests full of coins. This was the first hint of the vast riches promised by the inscription on the stone tablet. There was even a claim that 3 gold links from a chain were unearthed. The Truro Company had faced numerous challenges in their attempt to uncover the Oak Island treasure, one of which involved missing gold links that no one could explain. As the Truro Company continued to drain the water from the money pit, they noticed that the water level seemed to change with the tides. This led them to a crucial discovery. The entire beach was artificial, built with complex drainage systems and tunnels underneath. The company even considered building a dam to prevent water from flooding the pit. However, they soon discovered a dam had already been constructed previously, which left them puzzled. Unfortunately, a storm hit the island, bringing extremely high tides that destroyed much of their work. The financial strain from constant reconstruction efforts eventually forced the Truro Company to abandon the project. In 1861, the Oak Island Association took up the challenge, determined to solve the mystery. They managed to reach a depth of 88 feet in the money pit and built a new shaft to keep water out. Tragically, the bottom of the original shaft collapsed, and worse, a boiler explosion during the excavation killed 1 worker, causing the team to abandon the project after this devastating loss. Years later, in 1893, Frederick Blair, an experienced treasure hunter, led another expedition. Despite several attempts, Blair and his crew were unable to drain the water from the pit and eventually had to give up. Still curious about what lay beneath, Blair partnered with engineer William Chappell in 1931, forming the Chappell Company. They managed to dig as deep as 127 feet, unearthing tools and anchors but no treasure. The story of Oak Island captivated many, including the Restall family, skilled miners and divers. In 1959, they built a cofferdam around Smith's Cove, where they discovered coconut fibers and small stones, evidence of a man-made beach. Sadly, their work ended in tragedy when Robert Restall, his son, and 2 other workers were killed in an accident. This, however, was not the end of the Oak Island quest. In the 1960s, Robert Dunfield spent a great deal of money drilling on the island, but his efforts were unsuccessful. Dan Blankenship continued working on Oak Island for the next 50 years, but like many before him, found no treasure. In 2006, brothers Marty and Rick Lagina bought the island, along with their partners. Over the next decade, they uncovered strange and intriguing artifacts, including garnet earrings, ancient brass, and a piece of a ship's rail. They even found remnants of the wood used to construct the original money pit, fueling speculation that these might have belonged to pirates. Yet, the biggest question remains, is the Oak Island money pit a well-crafted hoax? Skeptics argue that many of the discovered items were simply left behind by previous explorers, while others are convinced there is still treasure to be found. Over the years, coins and other artifacts dating back centuries have been found, providing some evidence that someone inhabited the island long before modern explorers arrived. Many explorers remain convinced that the unique design of the money pit is intended to prevent anyone from accessing whatever may lie hidden within. Rick and Marty Lagina are just as passionate about their Oak Island expedition as those before them. Despite knowing they may never solve the mystery, their excitement and determination continue to drive their efforts. While skeptics believe Oak Island's story is merely a hoax, the Lagina brothers and their partners are determined to prove otherwise. They remain committed to uncovering the island's secrets and are currently seeking funding for the next phase of their journey. Joe Rogan's perspective on Oak Island is particularly interesting. He often combines skepticism with curiosity, hosting in-depth discussions on his podcast with experts and theorists about the treasure's legitimacy. While Rogan questions whether the treasure is real, he is genuinely interested in the history and exploration efforts. His unique outlook adds to the ongoing debate about whether the treasure is a myth or a reality that has been fueled by human curiosity and perseverance. The Lagina brothers' continued efforts, bolstered by modern technology and an unyielding spirit, have captivated audiences worldwide. Though definitive proof of a vast treasure remains elusive, the tantalizing discoveries they have made keep the legend alive. As they advance their exploration techniques and seek new approaches, the Oak Island mystery remains one of history's most compelling and enduring adventures. Whether treasure is eventually uncovered or not, the journey itself has become an enduring legend of exploration and determination.